Edge computing versus cloud computing. The two major technologies these days running edge computing versus cloud computing. Is edge computing just new branding for a type of cloud computing, or is it something truly new? During enterprise computing in the cloud is no longer a novel concept, but what about the edge computing? Edge computing can apply to anything that involves placing service for provisioning data and intelligence closer to users and devices. Edge computing can apply to anything that involves placing service for provisioning data and intelligence closer to users and devices. The basic idea is place computing resources closer to the user or the device at the edge of the network rather than in a hyperscale cloud data center that might be many miles away in the core of the network. The edge approach emphasizes reducing latency and providing more processing of data close to the source. Where edge computing performance matters. Consider the case of autonomous cars and networked systems to support them, distributing navigation software updates to vehicles overnight, as Tesla and others already do, as a fine application for cloud computing. At the other extreme, the decision of whether to wheel left or right to avoid a pedestrian running across the street probably needs to be made independently by an on-board computer. It's certainly no time to wait for a server in a remote data center to respond. Things that require real-time performance are going to trend to be done at the edge. From the cell tower, the signal can go over fiber, which is lightning fast. But there's latency still at the speed of light. If you have to communicate with the data center 2000 miles away, that's going to be a large latency. Things that require real-time performance are going to tend to be done at the edge. These are all the sayings of some sayers, people. They have all got dog houses at every cell tower. Edge doesn't replace public clouds. Some people argued in the early days of cloud computing that the public cloud compute utility would subsume other forms of computing, much as electric utilities did. However, a centralized utility for IT was never a realistic expectation. Edge computing only replaces public clouds in a world where public clouds were going to otherwise capture all the workloads, and that world isn't this one. Open opportunity. Some of the same container technologies that have become important for moving workloads between enterprise systems and the cloud will be employed for distributing computing to edge locations. Systems for metering usage and billing customers may be appropriately, but one lesson learned from the cloud computing era is that the most successful computing services operations are those that embrace open software and standards, Drobot says. Adip of STL Partners says many of the companies she advises in the manufacturing, oil and gas and telecommunications industries feel they have been burned in the past by proprietary legacy technologies. Real-time performance is one of the main reasons for using an edge computing architecture, but not the only one.